What's up, guys? Welcome to Married 2. I'm Charlie.
And I'm Anisha.
All right, and today we are going to kick off the topic of needs in a marriage and kind of a perspective on both sides of what you feel like you need. If there's any science and stuff that kind of backs it, and kind of diving into the deeper roots of what some of those needs really are. So I will let, per usual, the lady go first. What is some needs you feel like wives have in a marriage?
Communication.
Communication, all right. You gonna elaborate?
No, I have no idea.
Okay. Because I feel like guys aren't terrible at communicating, it's just what we communicate. Like, I've watched Darius play video games and he can tell me exactly where someone is down to the exact location with no problem, no hesitation. So I feel like communication is not terrible on our end. I feel like it's just a topic of if or what we're communicating about. So I feel like that's a very broad answer.
I think if you're on the idea of communication, part of the problem boils down to working together and living together. So a lot of communication gets very blurred. A lot of our communication about work comes home, and a lot of things that we don't have time to address at home comes to work. So I think there has to be more structure in communication. Like if there's something that you need to physically talk about.
Well, I can't mentally talk about it, so it would have to be physically. But I guess you're still just kind of being vague. So like, what do you mean? Like, you're saying there needs to be structure and talking about work versus home. So like, what do you mean by structure? Like, what are you trying to say? Like,
I think like a lot of times for us, especially like we're both focused on work, and work has come first, especially recently, adding in a second gym, things like that. There's been a lot of distance between the two of us. We're no longer working in the same building, so there's not like these little 5 or 10 minutes where we can like, communicate. And by the time we get home, we're both exhausted. So I think I know I am the type of person where I have to address an issue right then and there, or I will forget about it. But I also learned that if I'm the person that holds it in, I will explode, and I don't like to do that. So I think it's having a structured conversation instead of like, okay, this is just going to be a, pardon my French, pissing match. And actually, you need to get something out of the conversation. Like, it can't be the same repetitive, like, okay, we're going to argue about this, and then it never goes anywhere, right? Like, you need to have the communication to the point of, okay, what is the end result? What do we both need to come out of this situation? And how are we going to achieve that? I guess is the communication that I would say needs to happen more than anything. And uninterrupted, communication too. Between the two of us, whether it's work or kids or whatever, it's very, very hard for both of us to be able to communicate for more than 5 seconds. And communication at work sometimes will get better, but communication about home life sometimes does not get better. So.
Okay, so what kind of communication, like, I guess that's still the question that, like, for me I'm having is, like, for men, or even with us, you're going to say communication's, like, struggling here and there, but to me, I guess I don't feel like it is in certain places, because it's like, I can make a 20-minute conversation with you last 30 seconds. And I feel like that's where, as men, we get frustrated and we check out a lot of times during conversations. And like, one of the best examples I can give you is like, I used to tease you all the time about like how when sis would tell stories, she'd have to tell you the background about each person in the story in order to finish the story. So a 30-second, we did this at lunch, becomes a 20-minute story just to tell me that Jimmy stole a fry from Susie and it caused issues. And I feel like that happens a lot because, like...
But that's where I said communication with structure, I think, is better. Because we have a lot of empty conversations, and I don't know even what I feel like I'm asking for out of the conversation. Does that make sense? So, like...
I mean, I get that, but then at that point, how is that a communication issue on the man if the woman doesn't know what she's trying to communicate?
But I'm not saying it's just the man. You asked about what does a relationship need,
No,
and I'm saying
I asked what a
communication.
woman needs in a relationship, and you said communication.
Yeah.
So you said you guys need communication, and then you just said that you don't know what you're trying to communicate. So how is it you need communication from us if you don't even know what you're trying to tell us?
We just want you to be involved in the conversation, right? So a lot of times we're talking to, like, it's very truthful, guys, when I tell you, obviously, between 3 failed marriages and now being married for the 4th time, like, it's very, very valid when I say, like, I have truly married my best friend. Like, there is nobody that I want to go to first when I come to you over things, whether it's you or it's somebody else. Now, I have learned after finding a best friend that holds me accountable either way, right? If I do something wrong, she'll tell me. If she feels like you've done it wrong, she'll tell me. But it's nice to have somebody like her to be like, okay, I do understand that my hormones are not always in the place they should be. And I do know that I am quick to overreact. So I don't want to bring that to the table. So sometimes bouncing ideas off is always a good idea. But when I come to you, a lot of times it's like, okay, help me fix this. Like, help me understand, like, this is my problem. This is how I feel. You know, whether it's you're on your phone too much, or I don't know, I'm picking something.
Yeah, but I feel like a lot of times when I answer that question, you don't like the answer. And
Right.
you get upset about it.
Because I think we're still
So-
trying to process how we feel about it, right?
Well, and like I said, the problem is when, as a husband, and I mean this not exactly in the way it's going to come out, but I have to deal with
Yes,
you.
it does.
So when you're like telling me something and I know it's going to upset you, and this is the issue a lot of men have with stepping into the leadership of the home, is I know this conversation is going to upset you if I say this. Do I want to deal with the wrath of Anisha's unchecked emotions, or do I want to just shut up and appease her? Mm-hmm. And you'll find a lot of men, especially over time, and I think I touched this briefly on a podcast at the beginning, men will crave peace over anything. So if he has to shut up and just step out of the way to get that peace of not fighting with his wife at home after fighting the world all day long, he's going to. And then you hear women with the classic, I'm trying to let him lead, but he won't. And it's like, no, girl, he did. And you threw a fit about it, and now he's done arguing and fighting with you, so now he's just shutting up and letting you do what you want. Mm-hmm. And that's where that issue becomes, because a lot of communication will stop with that. Like I said, men will go after peace before anything. And even in our relationship, there's a lot of times where we have conversations and I'm like, okay, is it really worth pissing her off, or do I want to just shut up and let her do her thing and deal with whatever comes out of it? And, you know, while that's not necessarily the correct answer, and there's times looking back at a relationship, I wish I would have just stepped up. And I think I said it, you know, in another podcast as well, or episode of this podcast, I should say. If you're not ready to be the bad guy in your family, if you're not ready to piss your family off, then you're not ready to be a husband and be a father. Because even like with us moving out of McCann Street, you know, looking back, I'm like, I knew it was wrong. I told you guys it was wrong, and I still bend and caved and let you guys have what you wanted. Mm-hmm.
But that's a two-way street, right? Like, I also didn't just listen to you. Like, I nagged, I pestered until I got my way.
But I can't take accountability for what you did or not. I can take accountability for what I did. I did not put my foot down and be willing to be the asshole. But it had gotten to a point where especially back then, that's pre some of your surgeries, so you were a little more off the handle back then than you are now. So back then it was.
Can we stop that though? Because I feel like a little is a stretch. Like I feel like I've come a long way. Okay, like let's give me some credit here.
Yeah, but so especially back then, that was exactly the mindset I had was, okay, this is going to be extremely inconvenient for me. It's going to cause a lot of issues. There's a lot of bad things that could potentially come out of this. So do I really want to do this? Or do I want to have to listen to her complain and fight and argue and moan and groan for the next however long?
Right.
And it got to a point where it was, I will rather deal with whatever comes out of this than I will have to deal with your emotions.
And I very much was. So like back then, which I feel like is what's hard now, like with communication, is you're still very much both of us are maturing, as each year goes on, and each one of us is learning from things and moving forward, I think. But sometimes I know 100% where you have said, like, I go off of patterns, right? But like who I was back then, let me tell you guys, I bought like every Cricut there was, and I was starting this project and that project, and I was doing all of the things. And now if I'm going to start something new, I try to invest my time to say, okay, if I bring this to the table to my husband, I have now done X, Y, Z to say, I feel like I'm ready to take this on. You see what I'm saying? So like, I think, and that's still hard because I think you're still stuck, and I 100% take accountability for that because you're like, it's like a PTSD thing at this point. Like, oh my gosh, here we go again. It's another project. Instead of saying, like, and I think that's where you have the opportunity to lead. And I feel like you've been so exhausted for so long that like, hey, I see that you're wanting to do this. You have done X, Y, Z. Let's focus on doing X, Y, Z. Then we start the process. Because for me, you're just like, oh, here we go again. And then I get defensive and I get frustrated, which as a child, per se, I feel like I want to do it more at that point because I'm like, no, I'm going to prove you wrong, versus I think if you were to lead, it would be much easier to just be like, okay, like I hear what he's saying, because I do very much respect your opinion and your guidance and things like that. So that part's very hard because I think sometimes you're chippy, but this is where Married to Guys comes into a big thing, because I think you're tired, I'm tired. We have already created another new business, which is the gym. We haven't finished that yet. And I see where you're coming from, right? But I'm like, I repeatedly feel like God's calling me to do this, and each one was like a stepping stone to get where we're going, right? Like there's a bigger picture here. So it's been gnawing at me and eating at me, but I'm trying to be obedient to him, but I also really trust your opinion. So I think that's where it's very hard to, when you don't have that communication with talking with me about it, and you just kind of shut down because you're frustrated on, here we go again with another project, it's very hard to be like, okay, he doesn't see all of the growth and all of the things that I've done. It's almost like you see me like a child who just wants to start another project.
Well, and it's funny you say that, because that very sentence you said sounds a lot like every teenager I've ever known.
Right.
They still see me as a little kid. They don't trust me to be out till 2 a.m. This is ridiculous. I'm just going with my friends. I ain't gonna do nothing stupid. They don't trust me.
Yeah.
And at some point we have to move on from that thinking, right? At some point it's no longer I'm a teenager whose mom and dad is telling me no because they don't see the growth in me. Mm-hmm. At some point it's men will see the grander picture way more than women will. Right. Women see details better than men. Men see the grand picture, right? It's kind of like when you guys walk into a house. Men will look and be like, yeah, man, this is overall pretty clean. Structure looks good, blah, blah. And you'll be like, no, the baseboards are dirty and there's a cobweb right there in the corner. And I'm like, I didn't see either one of those. So it's no different. When you come at me with an idea or something you're trying to do, I look at the grand scheme of things of, okay, she's already complaining she's tired. She's already complaining she works too much. She's already complaining she wants to do this and that. These are our bills. This is how much time this is going to take away. This is how much investment's going to come with this. This is extra pressure that comes with this, X, Y, Z. And the overall structure, does this make sense to add this Lego piece in right now? No. So it's a very simple no. It has nothing to do with have you grown or not grown or any of these different things.
But I think that's really hard when you're trying to listen into, because it's not like I'm wanting to start a hobby, right? Like it's not like I'm saying, okay, here we go again. I'm going to do the cricket and I'm going to do all these things, or I, want to do an outside project. Like for me, this is 100% serving God. So that's where it's very difficult, because I feel like I'm trying to be obedient in what he's telling me and I'm trying to follow through, but in the same sense, I'm trying to listen to my husband. So it's very hard to versus like a little side quest, right?
If we go to 1 Corinthians,
okay,
the Bible says that man is the glory of God, women are the glory of man.
Okay.
I feel like...
Don't say that. Please don't say that. Don't say I feel, because that is one thing you've gotten me away from, and I'm trying really hard not to do that. So.
Oh, I'm saying I feel or I think, whatever. Okay.
Yeah.
I think.
Okay.
One of the biggest issues that happen nowadays is people love to think nowadays that my occupation is solely called to me from God. And I have yet to see a whole lot of examples of that anytime I've read through Scripture. I've seen God use people
right
in their occupation.
Right.
I've never seen him be like, yo, Jesus, go learn how to do carpentry. I'm going to use you in 30 years. I've never seen, you don't see that. You see like, this is what this person did, and then God used this to do that. And actually, a lot of times you see the exact opposite. You see Moses had a stutter, and God was like, nah, man, you're gonna lead people, and you're gonna give speeches and do all these things. So it's like I've told you, every time that you start to tie your identity to something earthly and claim that that earthly thing is godly, it's the devil manipulating you every single time. So it's
So how do you see that then? Like, I guess that's my confusion, because obviously you know where I want to go. You know that I am building this online community for prayer, for worship,
100%.
To do online coaching, things like that. So for you,
Yep.
Is this you telling me that's something I should not do?
No.
Okay, so then I think that's where the confusion comes from, because when I'm talking to you about it and I'm investing all of my time, I'm not doing it while I'm at work, right? Because I'm trying to be efficient at work. And then I'm coming home and I'm doing this. For me, that feels obedient. That feels like, okay, I'm doing what God is calling me to do because this is something that is in my heart. It just keeps going. And since we opened the gym, I said if I was ever to do something like that, that is something I would want to do, right? And then you even put me in the role of client fulfillment. And I feel like this is part of client fulfillment, right? So I feel like I'm doing exactly what is being asked of me. But then when it's constantly kind of like, okay, we're not going to do that right now, we're not going to do that right now, and I'm focused on being here, it almost feels like I'm being torn on, like marketing to me feels more of like an earthly thing, right? Like I enjoy that, I love that, like it's fun to me, right? But this feels hard, it's suffocating, it's exhausting. Like I don't want to keep going, I don't know what to do. And I'm just doing it. And each day I pray before I start doing it. And I'm like, okay, God, tell me what I'm supposed to do. And when I open, like I feel very at peace with what I'm doing. But so you're telling me you feel like that is the devil, or do you like explain a little more?
So I'm not saying one way or another what you do or don't do is the devil or not the devil or any of that stuff or God's calling or not. I'm saying that when I've read through Scripture, it's very plain what God wants us to do, what we are called to do on this earth. I've never once read in the Bible where it says you're being called to be a personal trainer. I've never once seen an example where it says God's calling you to go do this. It's very clear. He wants us to give thanks in all things, to love him with all our heart, love our neighbor with all of our heart. He wants us to spread the gospel. That is our great commission.
Right, which I feel like is what we've turned that into. Am I wrong?
Where's my goat? Someone get my goat.
Go ahead.
So it's just one of those deals where when you start saying the words and you start talking about how you feel, it's very dangerous, right? Because the Bible specifically says, do not trust your feelings. The heart is deceitful among all things. The heart is deceitful. So when you're trying to say that I feel like this is the direction I'm supposed to go, it's heavy on my heart, the Bible specifically says not to listen to that. Specifically.
Says not to listen to your heart or not
Yes.
to listen to your feelings?
To your heart.
Okay, but I thought...
Feelings is your heart. That's the correlation. Like when people say don't listen to your mind, it's your thoughts. When they say don't listen to your heart, it's your feelings.
Okay, but when you... So I guess that's where this gets very confusing, because it's God will put things in your heart is what I understood. So then if God is putting things on your heart and it's almost like he's nagging and he's gnawing at you to do this, just like, okay, for instance, the night that I woke up and I was like, hey, we're going to North Carolina and we're going to take all this stuff down there.
Right.
And you were like, you're crazy. What are we doing? And not that you didn't want to do it, but it was like, okay, well, how are we going to get the gas and what are we going to do and how are we going to get down there? And I had no idea, right? And I was like, but we're doing it because God tells me we're doing it. And we did it, and it was like, it all happened so fast, right?
So the Holy Spirit leading you to help an individual is not the same as saying that I feel like this is what I'm supposed to do with my life and how I'm supposed to be doing X, Y, Z.
So do you think I'm communicating that incorrectly? Because for me, right, like you keep talking about feelings. And in the last week and a half, right, we had a gentleman just not too long ago when I went to a local church to talk, had been talking about his feelings all night long. And I specifically said from, I was like, God is telling me right now, like, I need to say this, and I'm telling him about feelings and I'm telling him how important it is to not listen to that and that he has to, start understanding that first and foremost, which is conversations you and I've had, is that he's a child of God. There is nothing more powerful than simply stating that first, right? But I was led into that conversation based off of all the things that I've done here. So...
Right, God will use what you do to...
Right, and that's what I'm saying. So now...
Like I said, God will use what you do, not God will make you change things and do this and start your thing. Nowhere in the Bible ever, or at least I shouldn't say that I've come across, have I ever seen where God says, hey, woman, separate from your husband and go make your own business and do your own thing.
But I'm not making my own business. I'm making a community based off of our business. Does that make sense?
Open up. And no one's ever said anything about your community. But if you're trying to do that to make a living, it is a business.
Right, but I'm not trying to make a living. I'm trying to add to our business. So there's just a platform in there to be able to get online coaching with me. Does that make sense?
I completely understand what
it is.
So
with the community part, which again...
once again, there's a huge difference between God saying like, hey, you have this platform, this is what I want you to use, and the Holy Spirit will absolutely guide you through it. When you were at that meeting, the Bible tells us not to worry about what you're going to say when you get there. The Holy Spirit will speak through you and tell you what to say.
And I don't even remember half of what I said.
So the Holy Spirit will tell you what you're saying and lead through it when you're there. We're not supposed to try to come up with it ourselves.
But I do believe, though, and correct me if I'm wrong on this, so a lot of my community, like the faith, fitness, focus thing that I've worked on, which is a challenge through BAM, right, was something new, and I learned a lot out of it. But the biggest thing I learned was that a lot of people are still talking so much about their feelings, which I I do believe that is what I'm being called to talk about, because it is something that I've had a lot of feelings and emotions with all of my PCOS and things like that.
Yep.
So as I'm learning, and you and I are coming together and we're doing all of those things, like, that is a direction that I don't want to say I'm feeling, but it's like a pull in me. Like, okay, like even in some of my sessions, like people are constantly talking about their feelings.
Okay.
And I'm now to the point of like, hey, why are we so focused on our feelings instead of, because I'm realizing how tired, how exhausted, how upset people are, and I can see their light being pulled out of them when they're focused on their feelings, right? So that is a direction that I'm feeling pulled. And again, I can hear myself say, I'm feeling, you know, but when do you separate the two? When do you say, okay, God is putting you in this direction and this is the path, you know, that he's doing, versus, okay, this is my own feeling, my own understanding, right? Because I don't want to present it in the wrong way. I don't want to deliver somebody something that is not truth. So that part is very hard, because I'm trying to make sure that I'm in my Bible, that I understand. I've asked you more questions about the Bible than I think I ever have. So for me, this does feel like helping my husband by helping these people, right? Like, you're running the business, I have created the community. So this is, to me, this feels like helping.
And I guess two things I'll say with that is, first and foremost, when it comes to some things like that, it's not about helping me, right? It's, we have a mission we're called to do. Right. And you're assisting in that mission. Right. Right? And a lot of people, I know the word helper and assistant and stuff nowadays has this negative connotation, but it's not in that sense. It's two different roles, one mission. But that's where I always tell people I try to be removed from a situation. So whether it's you're the one leading, or you're the one at the forefront, or God is. My goat's at my desk. Like, that's the hard part for me, is I've never been the forefront of this, like, ever. I try to remove myself from the situation. So it's either, hey, do me a favor, go talk to Charlie, or hey, Charlie's doing this, Charlie's doing that. So I feel like I've always been the behind the scenes person. So is that not right? Like, is this... So if you start something, but then you put my name on the front of it, that makes it mine, and you're the behind the scenes person? Yes. No. How would that possibly do that? If I went out there and took pictures right now and said, hey man, this is from Darius, Darius is doing this, would that make it Darius's photos? Absolutely not. And he probably is like, I don't want my name on that, that looks like crap. Because I suck at that. Not saying you do, but this is a bad example, but that doesn't make it mine because you start it and say my name's in the front of it. And it's not about anything being mine. Like, that's still not the point of any of it. Like, it's not yours specifically. I understand that it's our mission, right? But what I'm saying is, though, is like BAM Fitness is 100% the business, right? So for me, the community that is tied to that, right, which is helping women understand their feelings, and we're working through problems and things like that, I do believe is part of what you're doing. Because people are always like, oh, I want to look like you, or I'm thankful for you, or things like that. And I'm like, please don't. I don't know how to accept the compliments, because I'm like, I don't want people to see me, right? Like, I don't have the knowledge that you do when it comes to a lot of, you know, whether it's fitness, nutrition, whatever the case is. I'm like, hey, do me a favor. Like, Charlie's my go-to person, because he is, like, he knows what he's doing. So I genuinely constantly feel like I am the helper. Does that make sense? And then the same thing with this community part is the only thing that I am leading in this sense is women have to, you're not going to be able to walk into this conversation and anybody care what you say. And that's hard, right? That's really hard, because I understand that in their homes, it should be the man that is leading, but they're not there yet. A lot of women are exactly like where I was. Well, and let's take a time out on that, and let's point out very quickly, like, Christianity, I am the leader of you. I am not the leader of all women. It is not all men above all women. That's Islam. That's not Christianity. Christianity, I am the leader of you. I'm not the leader of every girl that walks in this gym or girls that I talk to, any of that. Like, I am not their leader. They are not supposed to revere me that way. That is, like, by no means. So if they don't care what I say, they have every right not to care what I say.
Right, but that's
So
what I'm
let's
saying
make that
is,
part clear.
when it comes to the mission and the community part, what I'm trying to, I guess, help with our mission part is I'm understanding what God is telling me, right? I'm learning a lot of things from communication that we're having, things like that, like the breakdowns that I'm having with you. I'm understanding that I have a chance to be able to help in the mission that God has called for both of us, right? And that's, we are married, we fought through it, and we're almost 10 years deep, and we run a business together, we work together, we live together, we're raising kids together. There's a whole lot of things that should have said we won't work, and yet we're still here. So that's where I think it's very hard for me to understand. Even like the last conversation, when it came to the gym, you were like, you wanted to start gym number 2, and I was like, hey, like, you know, that was the first time I feel like I've really been stern about it, and was like, hey, please understand, like,
Right, but and that'll go right back to my point, I guess. We'll circle back to that. So once again, you were going off your feelings that, hey, God's leading me to do this 100%. He's leading us to open this second business, and et cetera, et cetera. Once again, if we go biblically and we go off scripture, that's not how that works. God does not call women to start businesses and do et cetera, right? Like, we don't see that. So you're trying to tell me that God led me to do this, and in the back of my head, I'm like, okay, was it God, or was it a few things lined up so you thought that had to be God? Like, there are things that are going to line up, and the devil is going to be like, hey, this is going to cause a lot of fights in the marriage, so I'm going to make a few things line up to where she thinks it's him, and then she does this.
Right.
Watch. And then all of a sudden, it's been fight after fight after fight. Now, here's the thing. The Bible also tells us that God will make all things work for the good of those who love him.
right.
Right? So I'm not saying that God won't use Richmond and God won't do those things, but that's why when I told you, if you're wanting to do this, I'm clarifying we have to go back to how it was when we opened the first gym. 6 days a week, 10, 12, 14-hour days, all the time, no breaks, giving up vacations, et cetera, et cetera. And you're like, yeah, deal. And then a couple weeks into it, you're like, I'm tired, I'm done. And
But I'm
like,
going
yeah.
past
So-
10-hour days.
So here's, okay, I said 10, 12, 14, not 10. And even when we opened this place, we were 8 to 8 was our opening hours, and we slept in the office. I don't know if you forgot those things, but we slept in the office several times. We were here till 9 o'clock at night most nights. We were here 7 o'clock in the morning, 7:30. I had Amber Myers at 6:30, 7 in the morning. You know, we still stayed open till 8 o'clock at night. It was never 10-hour days. So that was kind of my whole point, is like, I remember all the things that went into starting this one. You seem to have forgotten those, so I tried to remind you that this is what's going to happen instead of very clear expectation.
But the difference is, though, is I'm the one in there, right? So like, I'm not,
Right.
I'm the one that has to be all the way in Richmond, and I'm doing 10 plus
Yep.
hours a
and
day.
the first 6 months that Richmond was open, I was the one there. I was the one building equipment with
Right,
a broken leg.
right.
I was the one doing all these things. So it's not a matter of that. Like, it was, I don't want to do it when you became the one who had to work that long.
No, and that's the thing. I still don't mind to do that. The problem is, though, is that I'm not doing any good when I'm to the point where I'm so tired that I can't run
Right.
sessions correctly.
So
I can't do X, Y, Z.
Once again, though, you're kind of chasing rabbits based off what you asked. So that has nothing to do with it. The point is, when the devil first tried to get us to sin, he didn't go after Adam. He went after Eve. He went after her emotions. He made her feel inadequate. He made her feel stupid. He made her feel less than, and she revolted and tried to make herself
So then
better.
let's go back to the
Right? So how many times do we get to see that? And as punishment, specifically, the Bible says that women will have to endure the pain of childbirth, and they will desire to rule over their husband or have control over their husband, but he will rule over you, right? So we've seen this play from the devil multiple times of, I'm going to go after women's emotions, and I'm going to go after man's lust or man's anger or man's whatever, right? He doesn't go after our emotions because we don't give two rats behinds about our emotions 9 times out of 10.
So then let's go back to what I told you specifically my prayer was. I told you when we opened this, this was very selfishly. When I put my hand on that building and I said, God, if this is your will and this is your way, we will do all of this in glory in your name.
Mm-hmm.
If this is what you want from us next,
Right.
you know, show us that you want us to be here, right? And then you had the lead from there, right? You were the one with all the loans. You were the one doing all the things. And
I was trying to find a way to make it work, but you were on me daily asking to make it happen.
well,
Daily,
but that,
it was, I really feel like it. We really need to. If we don't, this is going to happen. We really need to, right? And at what point can I lead when this is what I hear every single day in the back of my ear? And at some point, it's like, all right, dude, I'll just do it. Like, let it go.
okay.
And that's where I talk about all the time, where you try to say you let me lead, but then you want to emotionally and sometimes literally badger and badger and badger until I do what you think it's supposed to be done. And that's not letting your husband lead. And that's where most women have that issue of just putting their input in, putting the information, and then hushing.
So, but then at
And
that
men
point,
have the same issue.
but then at that point, we were able to purchase the gym here, like the physical building. Obviously, we owned everything else, but we were able to purchase the building here.
Right.
So it opened that door.
It didn't open that door. That was going to happen either way.
It was. Okay, so that's what I'm saying is that's what I'm trying to get to the root of. Like, I'm not saying that whether I did things in the right way or the wrong way, but when we're feeling pulled that way, right? Like, I'm like, okay, so God said we should do this. You know,
Yeah.
certain things were opening very
Right,
quickly.
and like I said, it wasn't you. I prayed over it too and all these things. But
Right.
my point is, once again, like it was I feel like I'm being pulled, right? I feel that this
So
is...
then how do you
from-
know? I guess that's what I'm asking. How should you know the difference?
How did everything
Because-
happen in the Bible? Do you ever read the Bible and somebody says that I feel like God's telling me? No, it's God's telling me, or God will make this happen.
But that's what I'm saying is it. So I guess I should remove the phrase
Well,
I
and
feel
I'll
like.
put it like this. If you've ever been convicted, you know you're being convicted. It's not a feeling. It's not I'm being pulled. Like, you have a conviction.
Okay.
I know you've got to see it a couple times in person, even with me. You know, I'm not really an emotional person, but you'll see me like fighting back tears. You'll see me shaking. You'll see me like doing things where like it's gonna happen. There's no arguing it. There's no belittling it.
But that's what happened like with the last Ways in Worship in Richmond, right? Like everything should have stopped me from going, and I kept just crying out to God and was like, okay, so what do I do next? You know what I mean? And even that week, I kept telling you, it felt like there was somebody that was going to need to be in that room. I didn't know that it was me, you know, that was going to end up being prayed over that day and what was going to happen, but I kept telling you. So I think that's what's hard. Like when we opened BAM here, you know, I made the first call. Things just kind of lined up and lined out the way they did. But is that, okay, I guess I should say is God, does he put it in the women's heart? That's, I think, what I'm asking ultimately. Is it kind of like he puts it on us and then the men execute, or what?
I guess that would be where I'd raise up, show me an example of that in Scripture.
And that's what I'm saying.
That's
So
that's what drives me insane with a lot of these conversations is you're trying to act like all of a sudden everything changed throughout all time of history and all of God, and it says specifically he's the same yesterday, today, and tomorrow. And then you're like, well, what if it's different now? What if this happened? And I'm like, no, like this is what we have, this is what he said, and this is how it's worked.
So, and that's what I'm asking,
And now
I guess.
you're like, oh, well, maybe he put it on so-and-so's heart to tell Moses to go. Like, no, he didn't. Like, he went to Moses.
Okay, so is it
And-
normally in the Bible, is it the men or is
Yes.
it the women?
Like I said, Corinthians tells us that man is the glory of God, women is the glory of man. God made man in his image. God made man to work. He made women to support and help man through it.
But that's what I'm saying. So like you would have never called. You would have
No.
never called the Remax
Right.
sign here.
You supported and helped me through it 100%.
But that's what I'm saying. So when I told you, hey, I made the call. I called
Yeah,
Remax,
and
but
when I point out where that conversation, that whole thing started, right? It started with you saying, I want to work in a gym again. I miss working at a gym again.
But
Maybe
your
I should
goal-
go apply here. And I'm like, well,
but
I
your
don't mind.
goal
Why don't
was-
we just try to open our own then?
but your
We
goal
did.
was
And
to open a gym.
I think one of the biggest problems you have is I think you think God cares way too much about what you do on earth to make your money. I think that's where most people get caught up is they think God cares insanely too much about every single detail in your life. And it's not that he doesn't care about you and this and that. I think the problem is people are so caught up in, God, show me what is the right college to go to, instead of just making your best informed decision, praying on it, and letting him make that the right college when you get there.
Okay.
It's no different than if I hated working out in high school, and then obviously it led to one thing to another, and now here I am. And obviously, I got into it for the wrong reasons when I first did anyway. But it's less about any of that, and God will use what you do. Like, there's an overall plan that's happening. And I think people get so caught up in some of the details, and I think the problem is they don't realize that God's already got the details mapped out. And we try to constantly be like, is this the right path? Is this the right path? Like, we have any control over that. Like, if I go this way versus this way, I don't think that's what God wants me to do, so it's going to mess up his plan and what I'm supposed to do. And it's like, you really think he can't make that work? You really think that he doesn't know this is going to happen? You really think these things? So people get so caught up in it, and they just beat themselves up and beat themselves up and beat themselves up.
So then let's go down that path.
What am I supposed to do?
Is it because, I know, like, for me, right, I don't want to fail God. I know he's done so much in my life,
But you
and I'm
can't do
forever
anything
thankful.
to succeed God.
But that's what I'm saying. So it's like we're constantly seeking at, I don't want to say approval, but
Well, and that's
we
where
want.
It cracks me up, because people are like, well, God, what can I do for you today? God, what? Nothing. You can do absolutely nothing.
But I think we want to
Like,
honor him.
You can choose
that's
to
what
love
most
him,
people
and that's
want
it.
to do.
And that's choosing to love him. That's it.
Right.
That's the only choice we really get, is either we choose to love him and be with him the rest of our lives, or we choose not to. Like, people keep acting like, what can I do for you? How can I do this? Like, what can you do for someone who could blink or say a word and everything that came into existence? Like,
But I think
what
we
do you
just
think
don't.
that you, a measly human who has to go to the bathroom 7 times a day and handle all these different things, can do for, like, we extremely overvalue ourselves. Like, we have any control and any significant meaning in this. Like, at the end of the day, like, he's like, I want to use you. You're going to be used. Look at Jonah, look at Moses, look at all these examples. Like, it's either I'm going to use you or I'm not. And thankfully, he loved us enough to give us the freedom of choice and free will to allow us to choose that. But at the end of the day, if he wanted it to happen, even if we didn't, he could still make it happen if he wanted to.
But I think there's so many people nowadays who have found God that, and even myself included, like, as I start to walk closer with him, even though I was saved years ago, I think it's we don't want to. I don't want to say the word fail, because I don't feel like that's accurate.
No, I don't want it to be like that. Like, I completely understand it.
I think it's just we want to show the love that he has shown us.
100%.
So
that's
it's 100% the
it's
point of
normal and natural, and I'm the same way. There's several times I pray all the time. I'm like, God, like, I really hope I'm making you proud. I know I'm not. I know
that's what I'm looking
doing
for.
these things. Like, I don't know what I can do better. Like, I hope to some degree I made you happy.
Right.
And, like, in the day,
I guess there's a fear. There's a fear in your heart, which I understand should be, right? Because that's
the closer you are to light, the more darkness looks, right? Like, you don't realize, if you're sitting in a dark room, you don't realize how bright a flashlight is if the first and only light you see is a lighter, right? And then all of a sudden, as you get closer and you get outside in the sun, and then you look back in that room, you realize how dark that room was. So it's natural. The closer you get to God and you try to strive to God, the more evil you're going to look, the more unhappy with yourself you're going to be, the more discrepancies you have, because you realize how bad you actually were.
So let me go down that road, because I think there's a perfect example here between. So, like, when I have repeatedly told you that I don't think I'm doing any good when I'm working 10 to 14 hours a day versus how I used to, right? Like, I could work 12 to 14 hours a day, sleep on the floor, all these things. My mental is exhausted. I'm exhausted. And the joy and the light that I have at 5 a.m., right, versus what I have at 7 o'clock in the evening, I think sometimes it scares me, because I'm like, okay, there are some people in even my 6 o'clock evening class that I know that haven't been saved, or session,
Well,
dang it. But
and two things with that, even when you're exhausted, it has nothing to do with your ability to praise God. It's, are you going to choose to praise God, or are you going to choose to collapse to your flesh?
but that's what I'm saying. So I think,
But even with that, let's look at the example where, there was a man who cried out to Christ to save him in the Bible, and Christ, basically tells him, and I'm paraphrasing to a degree, but Christ basically tells him, like, hey, I could heal you, but imagine the story you can tell if I don't and you still choose to love me. Right? And a lot of us get so caught up in that, like, dude, like, what do you mean? Like, you could heal me and my life would be so much better and da-da-da.
Yeah.
And what Christ is saying is like, yeah, but you know what? There's going to be so many people who have these diseases, who have this issue, who have this and have that and have this and have that. And if the only reason you praise me is because I do stuff for you, then what does that show anybody? Are they not supposed to praise me because I didn't do it for them?
Yeah.
So, he's saying like, hey, like, just because you're tired and you're having these things, but you're still choosing to worship me, maybe that's what other people need because they're tired too. Maybe they just need to see an example that's relative to them of, hey, I'm exhausted, but I'm still going and I'm still choosing to love God and praise him, even though I'm exhausted because of who he is.
But that's what I'm trying to work on though, is like my own feelings. Because when I am exhausted at that point, right, like I can tell, like, I hear people tell me all the time, like, oh, you look tired, you look grumpy, you look blah, 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 right? And I'm trying to fix and focus that.
Right.
But it's like, okay, that part in itself is rather hard, plus then I'm grumpy, it's affecting the kids, it's affecting you, it's all these things. So then I feel like, okay, now I'm to the point where it's like the devil's starting to sneak in. There's more arguments, there's less conversation, there's less joy, there's less light, and I can't focus on.
But if there's only joy and light when you feel good, is there really joy and light at all?
Yeah, but that's what I'm saying though, is, okay, so how do you fix that, right? And when do you say enough is enough, right? Because at some point, is it like, am I doing a service if I'm just chasing the money? Well, I have to be here till 6 o'clock because what if somebody wants to come in and sign up? Right now, there's a double-edged sword there, right? Because it's like, okay, well, what if that one person that comes in was supposed to come in, but then again, am I just here because of money, right? Like, am I really trusting that God will provide?
That was supposed to come in, if they're really supposed to be there, you think God's going to give them one chance and walk away?
I'm not going to disagree with you on that.
So once again, like, you're trying to control things that you can't control. But I mean, even if we go back to like the first temptations of Christ, right? The first temptations that we get, there's 2 of them. A lot of people think the first temptation was flesh, which to a degree it is, because he's like, you haven't eaten 40 days, turn this, stones into bread and eat, since you're blah, 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 and he refutes him. He keeps his eyes on Christ, or on God, and what the Father told him to do, and he refutes him. But the actual first temptation is more pride and ego, right? Because he's talking about how hungry he looks and measly he looks, and if you are this person, do it. And, for a lot of us, it's like, all right, dude, watch me. Like,
yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
So we start to have that. So if that's going to be the first 2 things the devil goes to, and he did the same thing with Eve, right? The first thing was her pride and her flesh. It was, hey, God's saying that you don't need to know this stuff, and it's going to make you as strong and as powerful and as smart as he is, and blah, 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 blah. And who says you don't have the right to do that? You get it, girl, do your thing. And, then it's also like, yeah, eat it. You're hungry, eat. What's wrong with that?
Yeah.
And we get to see that again with Christ. So that's where those are the 2 things that he's going to go after the most, is your pride and your feelings and your flesh. So how do we attack the flesh? Hunger, lust, those are the 2 easiest ones to do it. That's why you see all these people, and I love whenever we see it all the time with Southern Baptist preachers and different preachers of denominations and all these different things. They're like, oh, you can't be living in sin, and they're 350 pounds living in gluttony. And it's like, yeah, dude, like, you're right. You can't be living in sin. You need to figure that out. But that's an uncomfortable conversation for them. They just like to talk about it when it's stuff that's not their issue. And of course, like I said, that's one of the hardest ones for people to get over because it's gluttony. It's physical, right? It's especially gluttony when it comes to overuse or overeating. and they're sitting there as heavy as they are, and it's an extremely hard sin to get out of, and you're battling the literal thing that you're enclosed in.
Yeah.
And then it goes back to pride, right? A lot of them have their nose up because they're pastors and they love God, and God's forgiven everything I've done, and you're 100% right. He has, tetelestai, it's finished. Always has been, always is, and always will be. But if you're going to say that this person can't go to heaven because they're living in sin, because they're doing X, Y, Z, and you're living in sin as well, can you say that you repented and turned away from sin if they're doing the exact same thing you are? If you have a log in your eye, why are you staring at the twig in your brother's eye, right? And I feel like that's where a lot of people have that issue is it's not that Christians are hypocritical, because real Christians will point out sin, they'll talk about sin to try to help you improve and do these different things.
I think that's the part right there, is they just want to help.
It's that we realize that we're crap too.
Yeah.
I think that's the part that a lot of people don't understand is like, we're going to tell you that, hey man, you really shouldn't do that just to help have an outside eye in. But it's like, hey man, like I fully am aware that I do it too. I'm fully aware that I'm a piece of crap too. I'm fully aware that I sin too. I'm fully aware, like I'm fully aware of these things. And then, people are going to argue like instant sanctification versus not, and these different things. But that's a whole rabbit hole we're not going to go down. So, but it's just... those are always the two things they're going to attack on the most. And I feel like with women, it's pride and feelings, and with men, a lot of times it is flesh and desires, right? Like with men, pride too, right? We want status, we want money, we want, mostly because I want money. And that's the thing, it comes back to women all the time, and this is where men are so shallow and so simple. And I wish women understood this better. But almost everything we do in life is for you. Whether it's a wife or whether it's a random piece of tail on
Yeah,
a
but let
Thursday
me be
night.
clear on this, that I wish men could understand this too. As I'm getting better and I'm understanding,
Here's my goat.
you want to give us everything, right?
100%.
So I do think you're absolutely right when it came to the leading. Had I learned this way earlier, I think there would be way less of a fault now.
Yeah.
I think at this point, now I crave what I should have been craving all along, right? Like I crave to be home, to cook things for you. I crave like the peace that when you want to give me everything, right? And you want to make me feel good, like it's as simple as you running a bath. Instead of before, right? It was like, well, you would take me on a Hobby Lobby trip, or you would take me to do these things. Now I just crave time, and I crave, for you to do things for me to make me feel good, but it's in a simpler sense, right?
Yeah.
Like when you come home, you're not stressed, I'm not stressed. I genuinely am like, I look forward, like last night, right? It was great. I might have fallen asleep very quickly, but it was the simplicity of, I had dinner done, we were able just to sit, relax, enjoy each other.
She didn't have dinner done. Dinner got done like an hour after I got home, but that's fine.
Okay, hold on. Yes, but I did have to let it thaw out because it took a little time. But regardless though, like when you came home, it was just knowing like, I'm now your like safe space, and I am not stressed, I'm not irritated, I'm not over the top because I haven't been at work all day. Now I've had time to decompress, to where when you come home, you can decompress, and it feels like all is right. So I think that's the hard part is men also are wanting to, in a society now, give us all the things, the fancy homes and the decorations and the TJ Maxx trips and the Hobby Lobby trips and all that kind of stuff. And I'm now realizing like, that's no longer what I want.
Right.
Like I want the simplicity, and now it's like, okay, well, we have to get there, and I'm understanding that, like we have to get to a point of where, okay, eventually you'll be able to be at home, but that's hard because now I'm to the point where that's the only thing I'm fixated on.
I'm never called to be at home and do nothing. I'm called to work the land. I'm called to work.
Yeah.
I am not called to sit at home and do nothing. I'm not called to relax, even if we're rolling in a bunch of money. I'm not called to do that. If we're financially secured to the point where I can sit at home, then I can actually go out and tell people about Christ. I am not supposed to sit at home and do nothing. But and I wish kind of to wrap that sentiment up in a nutshell is like we are created, like men are created in the image of God, right? And God made us a beautiful garden and animals and all these fruits and all these foods to eat and all these things and glorious things to give us. He wanted to spoil us, obviously, with things of the earth, but also just with loving us. And all he wanted in return was, please honor me and love me. Right? And that's all men want back. And like, some men do get trapped in the materialistics, but most of the time they're materialistics because they feel like that's what's going to attract women. They want a yacht because they see a yacht and they see 20 girls in bikinis hopping on it, right? They're chasing women, which is our design. You're from our rib, like we're designed to naturally want a woman. And there's a big difference between women and girls, and there's a big difference between men and adult males or boys. And that's where I hope a lot of people, if you guys do watch this podcast, understand, like I'm speaking specifically about men, about women, about marriage, and in the biblical sense of what marriage is. I'm not speaking as a generality to anyone and everyone. So, and I know when you talk about biblical hard truths and uncomfortable things, a lot of people aren't going to like that. But like, that is truly what we desire. There will never be a day in my life where I am not trying to figure out how to make your life better. Like, I am given the ability to lead the household, which is not a fun thing, I promise you that, but we lead the way that Christ leads the church, which means like I'm responsible for providing for you. I'm responsible for protecting you. I want to give you all these things. Like, my job as a man and as a husband is that my life will always be harder than yours. Like, I want to give you things I've never had. The other day we talked about the kids being spoiled and XYZ because, you know, they have these things that we dreamt about having when we were kids. And it's like, yeah, like I want them to have more than me.
Which is where I want, especially our girls. I want our girls to learn like who I was 5 years ago. Heck, even if you want to be honest, probably 2 years ago. You know, a lot has changed since we moved. Since we moved into our home now. You know, a lot of things have changed in that aspect. But I truly started walking with God instead of just simply saying like, okay, I've been saved and all is right in the world, and I'm just going to keep jumping into things and having you figure it out. So now I want them to chase the things that I have. So like when me and the girls sit outside and we play with the ducks and they've been, you know, pickleballing all the time, and they have their community and they're realizing they don't need shopping sprees and things like that. You know, I love that because they're now finding their community. They're also having standards, you know, with the boys, you know, that they want to date.
The thing is, like, a lot of people love to skip over this part, but when it says, like, you know, you believe in your heart and all these things by being saved, etc., it says that Christ is my Lord and Savior, right? And if someone is your Lord and they tell you to do something, you do it.
Right.
So when people are like, yeah, man, I got saved. Well, are you doing what Christ told you to do? Well, are you really saved, man? Because if he was your Lord, you would have this burning desire inside you to do those things. Right? And I'm not saying you're going to be perfect. I'm not saying everyone's going to do it. Everyone's walk is different. So I'm not judging by any means on that thing. Everyone is different. But you'll have that desire. You know, as Gentiles, we're not under the law by any means, but it does say those who love me and those who are saved through me, the Gentiles will have the law written in their heart and will outwardly express and behave that way. We'll have the Holy Spirit in us, and the fruits of the Spirit will come out of us. Right? It's not anything that we do, but if the Spirit is in me, things that are godly will come out of me because of that. So then, like, when I love God, when you love someone, like, you want to be closer to them. So what's closer to them? TJ Maxx and a shopping spree, or being outside with animals and ground and grass and trees that he gave us, right? The simplicity of things. Probably one of the happiest times in our relationship to me, which you were still a little hormonal and crazy back then, not to any fault of your own necessarily, but...
We're going to retract the statement crazy. We're just going to ignore that he said that. Keep going.
Yeah, you were. Anyway. It was a running joke about, like, who am I going to wake up next to? Anisha, Nichole, Nicole? Anyway.
Yeah, we'll just keep going past that.
But, like, one of the happiest times of my life, and most people watching this can probably relate to a degree, is when we had the least. I remember walking to the gym, I remember sharing a car, and I remember life was just so simple. Like, we spent time together watching movies in the living room. Like, that was one of our favorite things to do. We played games with the kids. We went on walks together. And it's like nowadays we have more and we do more, but we have less.
And I think that's what I'm trying to get back to, though. So like now it's like, you know,
we gotta dig the hole deep, girl. We're
But-
$1.3 million in debt, bro. So it ain't working like that.
yeah. But it's like this year, you know, having the garden and wanting to see you do that kind of stuff, and not like, oh my gosh, I have to decorate and we have to go buy this and we have to go buy that. Like, it's 100% the simple things. Like, I want to be able to go home and, you know, sit outside with the chickens and ducks, or sit around a fire, and I feel like we've gotten to that point where we do a lot more of that stuff now than we ever have in a long time. So yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Well,
So I think that's, yeah, okay. So we'll kind of wrap it up here, but I think that's the point of it all, is when it comes to communication, that's one thing that we want, and we want simplicity over things that we've never had before.
it's around way back to the very first conversation. She's saying communication. Okay.
Well, and it all ties into the same thing, though, you know, because that's kind of what I was talking about is when it comes to communication, now I'm trying to communicate with you about things that I have done wrong before. You're still kind of holding on to that instead of saying what is...
I'm saying patterns, and the biggest thing, and kind of to wrap it up, that I hope you understand, you say all the time, if I know my role, if I know what I'm responsible for, if I can do X, Y, Z, then I'm happy, I'm simple, I can do it, I'm this, I'm that.
Yes.
And it's like, okay, so I'm trying to tell you the role God gave you, and if you can do that, you will be happier than anything I can tell you.
But hold on though. So let's go ahead and very quickly say that is inside my job. So I am a very goal-driven person inside of my job. So if I feel like I'm failing at my job, that part is very hard. So you can't just give me this broad, well, you need to show up and God's going to tell you what to do. No, because inside my...
about work, but okay.
But that's what I'm saying, though. Like, when I'm speaking about that, I'm saying it's just inside my job.
Right.
Right? Like, the rest of it, 100%.
Well, no, and I don't even mean it like that. I'm just saying, like, you've said that phrase verbatim. So if you're wanting a happier life in general, then scripturally speaking, these are the things you're supposed to do. I mean, there's a thing right now, I know there's a study, a lot of girls do it, it's called a Proverbs woman. And, you know, I have one that talks about, you know, what a biblical man's supposed to be. You know, we're supposed to lead at the forefront, be a provider, protect, et cetera, et cetera. But, like, if we can remove the earthly expectations and the earthly ties that most of us have, it'd be amazed how much happier and easier going life is. You know, one of the greatest compliments I got was from a gentleman here in the gym, and you know, things obviously don't always go well here and whatever's going on, but you know, he just walked up to me one day and was like, "Man, like I can just tell you have the Spirit in you, because you are always just calm. You're always just smiling at everybody and saying hi to everybody. Like, even when I can tell that you're a little upset, or I think you are, I really don't know." He's like, "You can just tell, like, you're just peace." And I thought that was just the coolest thing ever. Because at the end of the day, I know things are going to work out. Like, even if the gym fails, even if I lose this place, even if I lose whatever, like, I still know I'm going to be okay. Now, obviously, I don't want that to happen. I'm trying to avoid putting my family through that hardship as much as possible. But, like, I've had nothing before, and I'm okay with going back to that if I have to. Like, if that's what's going to happen, then I know at the end of the day I win. Like, you know, I'm 30 years old. Realistically, I'm halfway dead. Like, it is what it is. So I don't care. Like, I don't view myself as an entrepreneur. I don't view myself as a bodybuilder. I don't view myself as these things. Like I'm a child of God, and I'm walking a path, and He's going to use me for what He wants to use me while I'm here. And when that's over, then I get to, you know, reign with Him. So reign's probably not a good word on that. That's probably not a good word.
Yeah.
But
I get to be in His presence, basically.
So I mean, it's just that piece. So that's where, like, okay, like these are the jobs I'm supposed to do, and that's where sometimes, like, I know it makes you mad, but I'm like, and I mean this in the most sincere way possible. I know it's going to come across kind of shitty.
Always does.
Pardon my language, but it's like, I don't care your opinion on some things. Like if God tells me this is how it is, that's how it is. Like whether it
Right.
makes you mad or not, too bad.
Yeah.
And sometimes I know it's not popular, it's not easy to say, and I hate doing it because a lot of times it just ends up in a fight. But it's like, this is just how it is. And
But I think that's where it's very hard to work together, though. Like, I really do. Because it's very much like, I don't want to say it's hard to hear. It's just kind of like, okay, a lot of times you're the one sitting behind the computer desk all day long doing all of the things that you need to do, right? You're doing all of that. And then I'm out here who's kind of like, essentially like in the battlefield, I guess. So when I bring things to you, it's like, you know, hey, this is what I'm hearing, this is what I'm seeing, this is what people are telling me.
And that's where I said women will focus on details and men will see the overall picture.
Right.
Like, hey, you're telling me that 4 people out of 1,800 that come to the gym are saying this.
Yeah.
That's kind of irrelevant right now. Like, if it was a big issue and they brought it up, like I'm probably already aware of it. Like I see these things. So if they're upset because they wish it was this color versus this color, it's kind of irrelevant. Not that their opinions don't matter, because if they feel that way, there's probably a few more who do too and just don't bring it up. But what?
This is the point that's the bike that the sneaker he's working on.
Okay.
Like it was a foreign object. It was like,
Yeah, she got a red light on hers.
I was
right
like, I
now.
don't know what I did.
I can't talk over my thing. And this is just like,
I don't know what I did.
Cross off. But yeah, so I mean, it's just like I said, we just see things very differently. And like I said, you hyper focus on details, and you freak out. And details matter, but details only matter to push the goal forward. They're not something to stress over, and that's where it's such a hard thing because people are like, don't sweat the details. And then when you get really good at business and certain things, you realize details do matter as far as making sure things are done correctly. But details on if this is this versus this, if they're not that important, stop hyper fixating on them.
And that's where I think, like I said, I think communication has to go a long way, because a lot of times I'll bring this to you and then it's like it goes nowhere. Like you just kind of stop answering, or, you know, whatever the case is. So then it's like,
Keyword stop answering, which means I already answered and she kept asking.
yeah, pretty much. But I think it's, okay, do we note this down? Because for me, I want a solution, right? Like at the end of the day, it's kind of like, okay, is this to me, like it's,
See that, women? You always say that, like, I'm just venting. I don't know why he always tries to fix everything, gives me solutions. And now she's saying she wants solutions.
yeah, but
So
that's
which
when
one is it?
that's when it comes to work, though. I will tell you if I'm venting. But I think part of it is, though, is we're looking for a solution over, okay, this person has a problem. How do I fix X, Y, Z?
don't-
Or, you know, hey, this is something that in my brain, like I'm talking with you about it, but I'm actually like, hey, this would probably actually be a good idea. This person has brought it to me. I'm thinking that it's something that would be good. Do we put this on a 3-month, 6-month, 9-month plan, or where do we put this? You know, maybe.
Right. But if it compromises the overall structure, then it doesn't work.
Right, and that's what I'm saying.
And that's where we have a disagreement a lot of times. You're like, I don't understand why this is a problem. I'm like, because no one will do this if we have this, and this will take away from this, which is the overall income, which then drops the income this much by this and this. So yeah, we can't do that because that ruins the whole business structure, and the whole business model will then have to be completely redone.
Okay, so then you just went one way and I went the other, because my brain went with, okay, it's a simple answer. Hey, this is never a good idea, versus, hey, this is a good idea.
Sometimes it's been a very simple answer is no. And you're like, yeah.
That's facts. But I think it's because, like, in my brain, I'm like, I do think it's a good idea. And from the marketing aspect, I'm like, I think it's a good idea, so we should do this.
Every marketing team thinks everything's a good idea.
That's facts. But I think at the end of the day, you should have a communication plan, I guess, almost like, okay, no, Anisha, I don't think this would ever work with what we're doing, or yeah, that is a great idea. Let's table it for, 3 months, 6 months, 9 months,
Yeah, but
whatever.
we do that, and it's still not like even the door system in Richmond, right? Hey, it's being worked on. This is the rough timeline I was given.
Right.
And then daily, do we have an updated timeline? Do we have a timeline? This is ridiculous. Do we have a timeline? Do we have a timeline? Do we have a timeline? And I'm like, I've told you everything I know. And it's funny because like Jeff Fox really did that skit where it's like, hey, pray for Bob. He got in a bad wreck. And the girl's like, oh my God, is everyone okay? I don't know. It says pray for Bob. He's in a bad wreck. Well, were the kids with him? I don't know. It said pray for Bob. He's in a bad wreck. Was his wife with him? I don't know. It said pray for Bob. He's in a bad wreck. Did he go to the hospital? I don't know. It says pray for Bob. He's in a bad wreck. I've given you all the details I have, and you're still just chirping them off, asking for more. And it's like, I've told you everything I know. You asking is not going to do that. You're just going to irritate me because you're getting irritated. I don't know more. I updated you the moment I had something, and it's, what do you want?
Right, and that's where it's hard too, because, right, so there's another empty conversation, another empty communication. What I should have asked is, hey, do you have the number of the people that I can call? Because this is not proper. We are paying a lot of money.
Yep.
We should be having an answer on this.
Yeah, but then that's where we disagree too, because you're like, this is not proper. And I'm like, yeah, it is. Like, it's a 30-day turnaround, a 42-day turnaround, which is exactly what we were told to expect from the very beginning. It's within our time frame window, just like they said it would be. So it's exactly appropriate business-wise. Like, they're not going to be able to say you're going to exactly have it May 1st. They can't control shipping. They can't control delays. They can't control any of that stuff.
Right, but if we would have
They
had a
gave us
rough timeline.
We did, and I
Right.
gave you the rough timeline. It said it's a 60-day turnaround. They're hoping for less.
Right. But that's where we didn't have,
That's the
like,
timeline.
we didn't have any updates that we could give people, right? So, like, hey, guys, by May 15th, we're excited to be rocking and rolling with our new door system, blah, blah, blah.
I gave you the update that they gave me, which was they're contacting them, and they
But for a long time, there was no updates. That's what I'm saying.
because they were building it.
But that's where it comes with me being part of the helper, is that is something that I can do. I can call and I can say, hey, where are we at? I need a status update.
But to me, it's like, hey, why are you going to pee off the company we're getting ready to partner in with for years because you can't simply wait 60 days? They gave you a time frame, and instead of just shushing and letting them do their work and their time frame, it's, no, I need details, I need step-by-step updates, I need. And I'd be like, you know what? I need not to work with you, so hush and get out of my face.
But
Like, that's exactly how I'd approach it at that point. If you call me 17 times, like, asking me about where your meal plan is, and you signed up 2 days ago and I told you you'd have it by Saturday and it's Thursday and you're still harping on me, I'm gonna be like, you know what, ma'am, I don't think this is gonna work. I think you better find someone else.
right.
Like, it'd be that simple to me.
Yeah.
And for me, I'm like, okay, you're doing this very same thing to someone else.
But the difference
Because
is, though,
you can't just have patience.
is that I'm very good at my HR and my PR role. So I'm very, very good, and that's why I have a lot of connections, a lot of places, is because I do have respect for their time. So if I'm like, hey, Josie, for instance, I'm calling just to check in. I'm wanting to give our members a status update. Can you let me know where we're in the process? Hey, we're still in the exact same
Right,
role.
but you don't take that communication with me. With me, you just harp that you're wanting it.
Right. And that's
So
what
it's
I'm
like,
saying.
Okay, you can have that respect for someone who's not your boss and not your husband or not whatever you want to call me, but you can't have that respect with me. With me, it's a harping and a nagging and a constant attack.
But that's what I'm
give
saying,
me an
though,
answer.
is that you can't provide the status update because you're like, hey, I still know nothing. And I'm like, hey, do me a favor. Just go ahead and give me the contact. I will call them.
Yeah, but in my mind, I'm like, okay, when we've had projects get done and any time when we worked there and other companies, when you worked at nursing homes or whatever, did you call your boss or the owner of the company, or did you call this person, and nag them about updates and timelines and et cetera, et cetera? No. You hushed, you gave them the answers you knew, and you moved on. But with me, since you have direct access, you just attack and attack and attack. And I'm like, I've got 13 other things that are way more important than if this thing gets here tomorrow or if it gets here next week. I have my timeline they gave me. I'm planning on the timeline they gave me. If it goes beyond that timeline, have at them. You can do whatever it is you need to do, rip their throats, attack, do your mama thing, whatever it is. Don't care. But this is the time that they gave us. I feel like it's a very respectable and 100% straightforward timeline. So to me, like, cool, that's fine. Like, to expect them to completely build out a software and a door system and all these things in 60 days, that's pretty solid to me. Like, realistically, they got it done closer to 42.
Yeah,
So I'm like,
yeah.
cool, no problem.
Well, and the big thing is, though, is what you don't see is, for me, calling them, it's a pretty simple conversation. Hey, guys, status update this week. This is where we're at. It's kind of like people have been enjoying watching our road to 300, right? Like, they are looking for those updates. They're looking to see, like, how many
Cool.
members
So
are we at,
then
things like
The
that.
simple answer is, hey guys, we're 30 days into our 60-day window, which means within the next month things will be done.
Yeah.
Right? Like, that's all you have to do, and then you're still accomplishing what you want to accomplish. You're not hounding down me. You're not hounding
But
down
see, and
my
that's
business
that's
partners.
that's something that I didn't think of, right? So when I say like you need to have a communication,
My eyes twitching.
yeah. But when I say you need to have a communication, like that's something I wouldn't have thought of right there. Hey, let's just go ahead and plan once a week. You know, maybe we try to call them in a month from now, see where they're at. We'll try to give a nice new update, right? But my brain was like, I need to find a solution for this, but it's not working.
Right. So once again, you let your feelings come in and dictate how you should think because you felt urgent. You felt like you need to give people updates.
Right.
You felt like people were antsy. You felt like people were getting upset. You felt like, and you let your emotions dictate how you reacted and how you even behaved, so to speak, in a weird way of putting it. And because of that, it caused turmoil in the company. It caused, tiffs between me and you. It caused bad communication. It caused these things. So once again, we go back to the root of things, which is controlling your feelings.
Right, but that's where it also comes into, that's what I was saying with communication. If it's like, I need to bring it to you and say, okay, listen, I'm having this conflict here. This is what people are bringing to me. How can I resolve this? If I would have come to you in that manner, you could have been like, okay,
Right.
Here's the plan.
And
Let's do this.
That's one of those deals to me too, where it's like, and I know you get upset about it, and it may not be the nicest way to say it, but it's like, if that is your job, why am I telling you how to do your job? If Larry came to me every single time he had to write a program or write a workout, and how should I do this, and this person's asking this, and this person's I'd be like, why did I hire you? If I'm telling you everything you have to do, why did I hire you?
Mm-hmm.
Like, you can't simply answer that question.
But see, and
Like, I'm
that's
so
the problem though,
confused.
is when it comes to marketing. So a lot of times you do have a marketing team, right? Like you are creative, you're thinking of ideas, you're doing
a 26 gyms that have a person that does marketing. It's not a team.
which is great.
Even
and-
the company we
and
worked
that's-
at together had one person that did marketing.
Okay, no.
Erica was head of marketing.
She was head of
She was
marketing.
the only one who did marketing.
No,
Yes.
no.
Yes.
Because
she had to submit
we were all
flyers
social
for
media.
okays and whatever else. But
We were all social media ambassadors. She came to us. We all talked it through as far as what we were going to put on social media. Like she had a whole team. I was literally part of that team.
she would say, hey, this is what we're going to make these posts or whatever, and then you guys would handle the day-to-day operations on the Facebook.
Right, but that's what I'm saying.
That
So
has
I'm
nothing to do with her having a marketing team. She makes the decisions you guys did.
and so what she was in charge of was
Marketing.
doing it literally is a team. And that's what I'm
I
saying.
don't mean in that sense. I mean, like, she made the directions, hey, say this. That'd be like me saying, hey, Larry, during your sessions, say this, right? Technically, we're a team, but is it a team of deciding what to do? No. Like, the decision's made and they go out and do it. But that's what I'm saying. Like, you were like, I don't know how to put out this fire, and how do I do this, and how do I do this, how do I... And, like, you want to do marketing.
But that's what
you
I'm
wanna
saying is
handle
I'm
people.
doing more. So she had one specific role, right? She was literally
Over
just marketing.
26 companies, yeah.
Right, but she was specifically in charge of marketing only. I'm in charge of PR relations, HR relations. I'm in charge of marketing. I'm in charge of helping you. Like,
HR relations, there's 3 of us. Chill. All right,
well,
4 of us,
yeah.
but chill.
Well, there's like 4 or 5 of us.
There's
but-
an HR issue. It's pretty quickly handled to the top.
Yeah.
It's not...
But,
Not
and
a
that's what
relay
I'm saying though,
conversation.
is it's one of those things where it's like, okay, my brain right now, I understand is trying to say the word.
She struggles so hard with the word
I can't say it. I can't say it.
compartmentalize.
Yes, I don't know why. My brain cannot function this word, but I
No, she
overthink
struggles
it.
so bad.
Every time.
She'll
Every time.
say it, even when she says it right, she says it in such a weird way that it's not right. Like, it's yeah.
I always go like compartmentalize. Yeah, I don't know why.
Compartmentalize.
Yeah, it's so weird. So anyways,
This has been a running joke for like 3 months now. She's been trying to say that word.
it's been so bad. But so like my brain is like, okay, right now you're not capable of doing this and handling this specifically. So it's like, you need help from somebody else, which is hard because I understand, like I do really try hard not to waste your time. So if I'm coming to you, it's like, hey, I've tried to think of what to do. I can't think of what to do. I need somebody to bounce ideas off of, right? And I understand that feels like a waste of time for you. And I do respect your time, but that's what you don't see. You don't see all the day-to-day that I do try to keep out of your way because I respect that, like, you are very busy. Like, I got to see it firsthand one day. I'm at home sick and I'm watching you be up and you're doing all of the computer things and you'll hear me tell people, like, I don't know how you do that job because I wouldn't be able to keep all the things straight that you do because you have so many things in your mind. I'm like, I'm watching you check things off your list, and there's still more you have to do.
What I'm doing has nothing to do with anything.
Yeah, but it's still,
like I said, it's just one of those deals where it's like, to me, it's silly, I guess. When you're like, it's Josie's mad, I don't know how to handle this. I'm like, yes, you do. You know to tell Josie either to calm down, you're being dramatic, get over it, whatever, or tell her to kick rocks and get out. Or you know that it's really not that deep and we can smooth it over and smooth it over. Like, you know how to handle it. Stop doubting yourself and just do it. You've done it for 20 years. Just do it.
yeah.
And, even if the solution's not always perfect, it's still a solution. And like, I may be like, yeah, like I probably would have done this differently. I probably would have went this way. And you're like, of course I did it wrong. It's like, it's not that you did it wrong. It's just like, hey, like, this is probably how I would have done it. I don't know if it would have been better or worse or not, but because you did this, now we have to do this, which does make it harder on us. So like, and it's not it's right or wrong. It's just a critiquing to improve. If there's no self-criticism, there's no self-improvement, right? I shouldn't say that. If there's no self-critiquing, there's no self-improvement. Self-criticism is self-disaster. So you should always be critiquing how to improve things. And then that's how you self-improve. If you're criticizing yourself, you're just demeaning yourself. So, but critiquing things and how things can always be improved is never a bad thing. And it's not that something wasn't good enough or whatever. It's just that if we can do it better, why wouldn't we?
So to go back to finally wrap this up, because we're like almost 2 hours deep at this point, I'm going to simply say my need is 1, communication, and 2, if there's anything that I can tell anybody at first, it is that you should have the want or the need to put God in at the front of your relationship first, because that has truly changed our relationship. It's become harder, but I think we're really finally making progress to move forward. I think we're really understanding each other with that, but you do have to have your own selfishness. If that sounds correct at all. You have to understand that at the end of the day, it's only you and God is the ultimate. So understanding if you don't have that first, you're never going to succeed in a marriage.
Yeah, you can't have Christ standards if you don't have Christ.
Yeah.
And then, with that being said, it's one of those deals where, that's why, who you choose to be a spouse is the second most important decision you'll ever make in this life. The first being choosing Christ. But, the Bible tells us very specifically, if you're not ready for the roles, for the responsibilities, for the et cetera, and the battles that come with being married, it's better that you stay single. Paul, who wrote a lot of books in the Bible, even specifically says that he stayed single his whole life for that very reason. So, just understanding that, like when you choose a husband, when you choose someone, understanding that you're choosing them, so you're choosing someone to take that role in the marriage, in your life. Same thing when you choose a wife, you're choosing her to be the ones who handle the day-to-day with the kids and handle the home and handle these different things and to be that partner in your ear, And if you choose a Jezebel spirit, you're going to end up with Jezebel results. So, for those of you who don't know who that is, you can look up that story. But
yeah, I think the
very important.
Communication part, I do believe, is probably one of the biggest things. But I think we would have saved a lot of heartache and a lot of struggles. And now we're trying to fix all those. We're trying to heal together, over things that we put each other through because we weren't walking with God. I mean, obviously we both knew and we both believed, but we weren't choosing to walk with him as much as we should have been. I feel like we both were trying, but we weren't succeeding at it because we weren't doing it together. I think now there's more communication than there's ever been on doing that together.
Yeah. And it's realizing that two has become one, and when we have fights and arguments, it's not us that's, like, I'm not arguing with you, you're not my enemy. We're arguing with the temptations, the issue the devil's trying to present. Like, the symbol of marriage is so important in the Bible throughout all kinds of things, even to our realization and our relationship with Christ himself is represented through marriage. So he's going to attack it, And the 4 things that insanely decrease the rate of divorce that people have to agree upon is faith, finances, children, and I guess you'd say your in-laws / close friends. And those are the 4 topics that people have to agree on. And if you agree on it, like the divorce rate drops like 90 something, like it drops all the way down to like less than 2%. It's insane. Just by having those key things established in the get-go of clear expectations of what is and what direction we're moving in. And then from there, it's just a lot of living and learning, you know. Obviously, I'm not the same person I was when we got together, and she's not the same woman that she was when we got together, and understanding that growth and that direction, and constantly, I can't develop her, but I can develop myself, so I can constantly work on developing myself as a better leader, a better father, a better husband, being better at the things I suck at, and sense if I lead with love and I lead with a Christ-like heart, different things, and that's going to have my family follow through with that. So
I think I'll end with, and this will be on the next episode, I would say respect is another big one that I think both of us really have struggled with over the years, and that's really hard. So
that's going to be on the next episode of what the guys need. So we're going to talk about that.
Oh, okay. All right.
Yeah.
So what the guys need, and then go from there. But
Take the 22, son.
yeah.
Just kidding.
So yeah, we'll discuss more on that later. So next episode is what guys need.
We'll go the guy side of marriage, what guys need for marriage.
Okay. So then we'll save what else the women need after that. So
What else?
yeah.
Bro, you had a whole 2-hour episode. You still ain't covered it?
Dude, I said communication, and then we went down a rabbit hole. So the only other one I would say is I do feel like it's that respect. I think that's very hard. Those were my 2 things, communication and respect.
I think women crave love more than they crave respect, but they tie together pretty closely. So
I think it's respect for themselves. So that's something I would love to get into, because I think there's a whole thing of respect that probably needs to be covered, and I would love to talk about that in the Bible too.
Well, we're not going to get any deeper into that, because
Yeah.
we're going to wrap this up, because it's been a very long episode because we didn't get together last week. So with that being said, comment below any topics you want us to cover, questions, thoughts, concerns, things you want us to elaborate on. I know several times there's a few dicey topics and things that I say that are very brief and short, that I can gladly elaborate on, and I really hope you guys understand in a broader sense than just the narrow, short answer that I gave or that she gave, for example. So with that being said, I'm Charlie.
I'm Anisha.
And this was Married Too.
See you guys
next time.